Welcome back to Giatti Glow, my friends. I'm Barb Schnarr Giatti, and I am so glad you're here. Every week, we come together to grow and glow, learning to live more fully and more consciously as we glow from the inside out. This is week 3 of 12 of the Giatti Glow Life Coach series. If you're following along in my 12-week life coaching book, that's great. If you don't have the book, that's absolutely fine, but you will want something to write with and write on. If you'd like to get the book, just go to the About section of Giatti Glow, wherever you found this podcast. There will be a link to my 12 life coach sessions for coaches and individuals book on Amazon. Or you can go to Amazon and search for Schnarr Coach. That's Schnarr Coach. Schnarr is my maiden name, and that's what I use to write these books. So remember how last week I talked about my vision statement is my goal is to have a successful podcast based on my coaching books that allows me to have financial freedom with no limitations based on time, geography, etc. You can bet, as someone who's never had a podcast before, that I let some doubts seep in. I don't know anything about podcasts or marketing them, and what if I do if nobody listens, and everybody else is better at this, and do I even have anything to say that's worth listening to? All the things about how I would fail, which brings us to this week's focus. This week, we're talking about something that every single one of us faces, limiting beliefs. Think about how often you talk negatively to yourself. It happens all the time, seriously, all the time. If someone else talked to you that way, you wouldn't keep them in your life, right? So since you're always going to have you, let's work on stopping the negative self-talk and making our inner voice something that helps us instead of being a toxic influence. By the end of this episode, you'll be able to clearly spot your own limiting beliefs and self-talk, understand where they come from, and have the tools to start rewriting them into something far more empowering and useful. Part 1. What are limiting beliefs? I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever caught yourself saying something like, I'm not good at that, or I could never do what they're doing, or that's just not who I am? If so, you've experienced a limiting belief. A limiting belief is a story that you tell yourself. It's a narrative that restricts your potential, and it's probably not true, it just feels like it is. A limiting belief is a mental boundary that keeps you from achieving everything you're capable of. For example, let's say someone is thinking of starting their own business. They might say, I'm not the kind of person who can handle that much responsibility. Or if a person who's been hurt in a relationship might say, I'm never going to find anyone who's going to truly get me. Or maybe you've heard yourself say, I'm too old to start something new. These statements might sound harmless, but they quietly shape your reality. Because what we believe determines what we do or what we don't do. If you believe that something isn't possible, your mind is going to automatically look for evidence to prove that belief correct. But you know what? The opposite is also true. If you believe that something is possible, your mind begins to find evidence to support that too. Part 2. Where do limiting beliefs come from? So let's talk about where these beliefs actually come from. Most of them are hand-me-downs. We didn't choose them, we inherited them. Negative self-talk comes from 3 main places: childhood, society, and past experiences. So let's take childhood first. Maybe you had a teacher who told you you weren't artistic, and that has stuck with you your entire life. Or you had a parent, or both of them, who said, be practical all the time when you were big dreamer. Or maybe you tried something, even just once, singing or writing or volleyball, and somebody laughed at you. Even a small comment made offhandedly can plant a seed that grows into a limiting belief. Now, side note, the people who do those things to you, that's just a split second in their life. They never think about it again, but somehow we carry these things through our entire lives. It's crazy. Here's a story. So one time a client told me that when she was 10, she tried to make her parents breakfast in bed, and she was so proud of it, even though, realistically speaking, she had burned the toast and spilled some juice and, It wasn't great, but she was really proud of herself. And her dad really cut her down. He's like, well, you'll never be a chef or anything. And 30 years, I'm not kidding, 30 years later, even when she's by herself at her own home, she's still telling herself, I can't cook. Just that one little comment sticks with her. These untruths we tell ourselves can really get sticky and stay with us. But we're going to work on that. So second, society and culture. So we take in messages from everywhere. Movies, social media, advertising, cultural and familial traditions. So and these are the things that you need to look a specific certain way, or you need to have everything figured out by the time you're 30, or people like us don't do that. These stories really put limits on us, and they're not realistic in the real world, but somehow we carry them with us, and they put limitations on us. So also that everything figured out by 30 thing, that's not realistic at all. That's all I'm going to say about that. And third, past experiences. So maybe you started something and you failed at it, or maybe you were in love with someone and they hurt you, or maybe you took a risk and it didn't go as you planned or hoped. It's really easy to let one experience define who you are, but not really. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like we let that one experience define what we believe about our entire future, even though it's not true. It's kind of like reading the first chapter of a book and assuming you know the ending. So here's the thing. I really want you to understand your past does not define you. It informs you. It just gives you data, not destiny. Part 3, how limiting beliefs show up. Limiting beliefs rarely introduce themselves directly. It's not like they walk up and say, hi, I'm the reason you're stuck and feel like you can't do anything. Want to get a cup of coffee? They show up in behaviors, in patterns, and feelings. And here are some clues. Procrastination. You keep putting things off, not because you don't care, but because deep down you doubt you'll succeed. Perfectionism. You convince yourself that you'll start when the time is right. But perfectionism often is fear dressed up as productivity. Negative self-talk. You criticize yourself for not being enough, not smart enough, not thin enough, not confident enough. And comparison. You'll see someone succeeding and feel like you're falling behind, forgetting that you're on your own unique timeline. So here's an example. Let's say you've always wanted to learn to paint. You buy the brushes, the paints, the canvas, and somehow you never start. I think we all have some hobbies like that where we bought all the stuff to do the hobby and then we just never do it. You tell yourself, I just don't have the time, or I'll start when I'm less busy, or whatever. But if you dig deeper, maybe what's really underneath is I'm afraid I won't be good at it. And if I'm not good at it, I'll feel like I failed. That's a limiting belief hiding behind an excuse. Let's do a reflection exercise. So right now, take a deep breath. Think of one goal or dream that you've had on the back burner. Could be anything. Now, what thoughts pop up when you imagine taking a step toward it? Maybe you think, oh, that's stupid, or I don't know where to start, or it's just not realistic. Write down all the things that are holding you back, and then really look at them and figure out where they came from and if they're actually true or not. From there, you can trash all the junk thoughts and make obstacle blockers that we talked about in the first episode for the things that might keep you from achieving your goals. Part 4, the cost of limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs have a quiet way of shaping the life you settle for. So in your career, it might sound things like, oh, I could never be a team lead, or I'm not management material. And before you know it, you've stopped even thinking about getting a promotion or sharing your ideas. In relationships, it might sound like, oh, people always leave, or it's me, I'm too much. And then you're afraid to be authentic or let anyone in. In your personal growth, it could be like, oh, I'm just not that type of person, or I always struggle with this. So you stay in your comfort zone, even when it's no longer comfortable. These beliefs create invisible walls, and I want you to understand that you can take those walls down, one thought at a time. Part 5, challenging limiting beliefs. So now comes the part where we start to change and question these beliefs. So let's walk through this together here. So choose one belief you identified earlier. Something like, oh, I'm not confident, or I'm not good with money, or I always fail, something like that. Now ask yourself 3 questions. Is this belief really true? Where did it come from? And what's another way to see this? Let's take these one at a time. Is this belief really true? Well, prove it. If this belief is true, you can prove it, right? There's an unchangeable fact. Or maybe it's just something I've repeated to myself, even though it's not true. Is this belief really true? 2, where did it come from? Who taught me to think this way? Sometimes we realize that the belief isn't truly ours. It's borrowed from somebody else's fear or stupid opinion. So we need, number 2 is, where did it come from? And number 3 is, what's another way of seeing this? Could there be another story or another perspective that feels more empowering? So here's an example. Let's say your belief is, I am not a leader. Ask yourself, is this true? Yeah, maybe you're not like a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but you lead your family every day, or maybe you are a volunteer leader in your community, or even your own healing journey every day. You're leading yourself through that. You make decisions, you set boundaries, you inspire others, and that's leadership. So you are a leader. Take a moment to challenge that belief, and then when you do that, it begins to loosen its grip on you. So let's actually write this out. Take one limiting belief and write it down. Write down the belief itself, where it came from, the evidence that contradicts it, and write a new belief, an empowering belief, to replace it. For example, limiting belief: I'm terrible at managing money. Contradicting evidence would be, I've paid off debt before, I budget well, and I am learning. Your new belief could be, I am becoming more confident and capable with money every single day. You see the shift? You move from self-criticism to self-trust. Part 6, building empowering beliefs. So now that you've identified and challenged your old beliefs, it's time to build some new ones. Empowering beliefs are thoughts that expand your possibilities. They help you focus on growth and not limitation. And they sound like, I'm capable of learning anything I put my mind to, or I create my own opportunities, or every day I'm becoming more of who I'm meant to be. One of my favorite things to remind clients is this: you don't have to believe your new thought 100% at first. You just have to believe it a little more than you believe the old thought, because repetition builds belief. I mean, think about how you learned your limiting beliefs in the first place, through years of repetition. So now you're going to use that same principle to rewrite your story. Here's an activity. Take an old belief, like, I'm not creative. Now flip it to something empowering. Creativity flows through me in ways I haven't even discovered yet. Or maybe it's an old belief like, I always quit. Well, reframe that as, I am learning to follow through and trust my consistency. Then speak these new beliefs out loud. Write them on sticky notes and put them where you'll see them. Put it on the lock screen of your phone. Each time you read or say them, you're training your mind to see new possibilities. Part 7, growth mindset and why it matters. Let's connect this to something called growth mindset, a concept from psychologist Carol Dweck. A fixed mindset believes that your abilities are set in stone. I'm just not good at that. A growth mindset believes that everything can be developed with effort, time, and learning. With a growth mindset, you stop asking, can I do this? And start asking, how can I learn to do this? Imagine if you applied that to everything. I can't run a business yet. I'm not confident speaking up yet. That little word yet changes everything. Every skill you admire in someone else, confidence, discipline, courage, is learnable. It's not a personality trait, it's practice. So here's a reflection exercise. Think of something you've struggled with recently. Maybe you started a new project or tried a new hobby or took on a new challenge. Ask yourself, if I looked at this through growth mindset, what lesson would I see here? What is this challenge teaching me about myself? And what can I do differently next time? Write your thoughts down or say them out loud. Reflection turns experience into wisdom. Side note, we're going to do a whole 12-week coaching series around growth mindset. I haven't decided in which order I'm doing these series yet. Sorry. But you can get my growth mindset coaching book on Amazon if you want to get started now, or any book by Carol Dweck. That'll really help get you started with growth mindset, which is the power of yet. Part 8, overcoming resistance. So now let's talk about resistance, because when you start changing your beliefs, resistance will show up. You might find yourself saying things like, oh, this feels weird, or this isn't working. That's normal. It's just your brain trying to keep you safe in the familiar. If you're used to believing something about yourself, it's easier to not challenge it, right? So when resistance appears, don't fight it. Meet it with curiosity. Ask yourself, what is this resistance trying to protect me from? Usually it's just fear of failure, rejection, or fear of the unknown, that kind of stuff. Here's an example. Once a client told me she wanted to start a blog, but she just couldn't do it. She just couldn't sit down and start writing. So we thought about it for a while, and after a while, we realized it wasn't the fear about writing, it was the fear about being seen, much like I have with this podcast. So once she named that fear, she could work through it one step at a time, and pretty soon she got her blog up and live. And the key is to start small. Just take that one tiny action that contradicts your limiting belief. Because every time you act in opposition to fear, you weaken its hold. This week, I want you to change one small action that is a negative belief you have about yourself. If your belief says, I'm not brave, make that phone call you've been avoiding. If your belief says, I'm not creative, take 5 minutes to do something creative. If your belief says, I'm not worthy, do something kind for yourself. You don't need permission for that. Then reflect on how it feels afterwards, because every small step is a step towards victory. Part 9, keeping the momentum. Breaking limiting beliefs isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing relationship you have with yourself that will only deepen over time. You can keep your momentum by practicing a few simple habits: daily affirmations, weekly reflection, and celebrate your progress. With your daily affirmations, you can start every morning by saying something empowering, and whatever you say is up to you, but it would be something like, today I choose to believe in myself. Weekly reflection. What belief did I challenge this week, and how did it change me? And celebrate your progress. No step is too small to celebrate. Everything that builds confidence and helps rewire your brain is a good thing and a cause for celebration. When you celebrate your small wins, you teach your mind change is safe. Growth feels good. You can even have it as a mantra. Change is safe. Growth feels good. So here's what I want you to take away today. You are not your limiting beliefs. You are the reader, writer, and editor of your own story. Your beliefs are thoughts you've practiced. And if you can practice old ones, you can practice new ones too, right? So take what we talked about today, awareness, challenge, and replacement, and begin rewriting the script of your mind. Every time you choose a more empowering thought, you're choosing to glow a little brighter. Thank you so much for being with me today. If you'd like to go deeper, check out my life coaching workbook on Amazon. It's a really good companion to these episodes. And until next week, keep growing, keep believing, and keep glowing. I'm Barb Giatti, and this is Giatti Glow. Giatti Glow is powered by the Life Coach Store, which is owned by me, Barb Giatti. On my website, you can find all kinds of great resources for over 20 types of wellness coaches. Check out thelifecoach.store for more information.